Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. Been doing my investigation of a bunch of news releases lately, and I've got a bunch of companies that I want to talk about today. And I'm going to get right to it because I certainly have a lot to talk about. Some are companies that I've already followed, and some are some new companies that have recently come to my attention. So I'm going to go right to a share screen here and just pull this up for you. Alrighty, get to the big news this week is that the Federal Reserve is having their February meeting, and it seems like it's pretty much baked in the cake that the market feels 100% chance that they're going to raise 0.25%. Which will be a big change from their relentless 0.75% moves that happened right into the December meeting. And then in the December meeting, they announced that they would be only at 0.5%. They also announced talked about the idea that their internal estimates are that the peak interest rates will be between 5 and 5.5%. So they maybe only have 0.75% left to go before they would stop. The fact that they dropped into a 0.5% was negative for the US dollar, as you can see in the chart there. And it was also very positive for the price of gold. I think the same thing will happen even if they were to go back to the 0.5%, which would surprise the market. I think everybody is factoring in 0.25%. I think that 0.5% is not out of the equation, but whether it's a half or a quarter, the end is near for the relentless rate increases. It kind of surprises me that they've been so aggressive, not because you can see it in the inflation, that they're not having a very good battle with inflation. And I think part of the reason is that, like they say in Alcoholics Anonymous, the first step is you have to admit that you have a problem. The reality is that they caused the problem. They caused the inflation to get away from them. For 14 years after the economic slowdown in 2008, they had interest rates at near zero for 14 years. That created a lot of excess in the economy and in inflation. Then COVID really affected it as well, but it's a combination. That's a 1-2 punch that really set up the inflation to take off like it did in 2022. But usually the part that surprises me is usually the Fed would make a few moves, 2 or 3 moves, and then let the data come in and see if they were effective in their efforts. They just went relentlessly, meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, and not allowing that data to work its way into the economy. The reality is that it looks like they are over tightening and breaking things. You look at the sales of housing has fallen off a cliff. Other indicators, automobile sales, the interest rates on credit card debt is at 19% now. These things are all going to start an economic slowdown, and that's what the inverted yield curves are suggesting. And as you can see here in the US dollar, I think the currency traders have got ahead of the curve. It topped out in September. It has been correcting aggressively since. In early 2023, it went through a golden cross or a death cross, and it doesn't look like the trajectory of this decline certainly suggests that there is a lot more downside. And I think what the currency traders are seeing is something that the regular um, um, market participants are not seeing, which is that with all of this relentless increases in interest rates, I think that it's not very long, probably in the second half of 2023, that you're going to see them completely change course, not just slow down and then stop raising interest rates. I think they're going to have to go into another round of quantitative easing in the second half of 2023. They're certainly talking the talk that they're not, but you know, there's a lot of indicators out there that suggesting that they're going to have to. So I follow this closely because it's such a big market mover on the price of gold. And as you can see, gold had a triple bottom in September, October, November, a big breakout. Golden cross in January, so it's getting off to an excellent January effect, trading quite significantly above its 52, or I mean the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average. This is the closing price on Friday, and it's Monday, the 30th of January. It's up $10 today. So I think that the market is seeing that the Federal Reserve is likely going to just raise 0.25%. They're probably going to try to talk in a hawkish fashion, but if they lower it, if they slow down to 0.25 point, all the hawkish talk, I think, is for naught, because you know, it's showing that they are at the end of their rate increases, and that the next step is to stop. And then I think, as I said, in the later half of 2023, we'll see them doing more quantitative easing. And all of these things are very bullish for gold. And that's why I think you're seeing this under strong demand from the central bankers of the world. I think they are all coming to the reality that they can't keep you know, interest rates high, and that they are wanting to diversify their holdings, owning some gold. And the supply is an equally bullish story. You've got head grades at mines in decline for a number of years. The discoveries are not enough to replace what's being mined out every year. So again, I think a lot of things are transpiring for gold to go higher and for the gold stocks to go much higher. I follow gold so much because it has such an impact on the metals complex. All metals seem to follow the action in gold. You can see that in silver. Here is silver following the same path. Golden cross actually happened earlier. It's trading just above the 50-day moving average and aggressively above the 200-day moving average. Copper, you can see the same thing, following the same path as gold. Copper is kind of the gold of the base metals, in that where it goes, often so goes the other base metals. And here again, golden cross in January, trading aggressively above the 20-day or the 50-day and the 200-day. And I think there's a really good argument for the price of copper. China is back to business after they've been lifting their COVID restrictions. And then you've also got the demand coming from the electric vehicle revolution. All of these things will create a lot of demand. And on the supply side, you've got, you look at the inventories at the various different metals exchanges, and they're at all-time lows. That used to be measured in weeks. Now it's measured in days of inventories. So any kind of shocks to the system on the supply side, for example, if there was to be a strike in Chile, which often happens when copper is trading aggressively like it is, they tend to have strikes that affect the, and you know, anything like that can create a very serious supply problem. So that's my story on the metals. Let's get to some news releases that I've been paying attention to lately. Amex Exploration, hold on here, AMX.B. Here is Amex Exploration. I picked them as a tax loss selling stock. I also think they're a deep value play. They have a pretty tremendous project in Quebec. I'm going to pull up their website here. They just had an important news release out. Let's see, News 2023. And they talked about some of the high-grade hits that they had at their high-grade zone. The headline number was 75 grams of gold over 4.85 meters. This project is quite exciting for several reasons. The main reason is at their high-grade zone, it's quite spectacular continuity of the high grade. In fact, I'm going to go to the news release just prior to this one, and it's got some excellent maps. On January 9th, they put this one out, and it talked about all their the work that they're planning for 2023. First thing I'd point out here is a look at all of these high-grade gold discoveries. The most advanced one is their high-grade zone, and as you can see here, just remarkable continuity of the high grade. From you're starting right at surface and you're going down over 1,000 meters. And that's the nature of these orogenic gold systems. They are deep cracks in the earth that those faults enable the metals bearing fluids to make their way up to surface. They're crustal faults, meaning that they go very, very deep. And for example, some of the orogenic gold deposits in the world, you know, you got to go down 1,000 meters, and at 1,000 meters you hit the bonanza grade, and the bonanza grade continues for another 1,000 or more meters. These make for very low cost production and very high grade and high margins. One of the huge successes in the last decade or so in the mining space was Kirkland Lake. Kirkland Lake had the Fosterville mine and specifically the Swan Zone on the Fosterville mine. It was a down about 800 meters or so, and just phenomenal grade, bonanza grades, low cost, made them one of the lowest cost producers of gold in the business. Their stock was a dramatic outperformer of its peers, and ultimately it led to them getting bought out. So I'm a big fan of these orogenic gold systems, especially when they've got the high-grade continuity like at the high-grade zone. But that's not the only thing that's important. Right beside Denise that you can see here, or right beside the high-grade zone. So this is the high-grade zone in here, this cigar-shaped one. And then right beside it is Denise. And this is what you're looking at in the cross-section. This is the plan map. Denise is a open pit target with very handsome grades in it. And a benefit of it is if they started mining this open pit target here, it would give them easy access. In fact, you could design a pit that it grabs some of this high-grade material that starts at the top of the high-grade zone. That's how close they are. And then that would give you access to the depth and go underground. Another thing that I think is quite important is look at all of these high-grade hits and zones that they have in close proximity to each other. Now, I'm going to go back to another map that helps explain why this is so important. So in here is all these zones are that you saw in that earlier map. This red part is Denise, and you can see one of those deep cracks in the earth here. This is the Normatel, this is the Perron fault, and here is the Normatel fault, and in between are all these high-grade zones. So the source of where all of this high grade is coming from could quite possibly be the Perron fault, possibly the Normantel fault, or as you go over to the east more here, you see where these two faults come together, and they really compress that Beaupre block of rock. And all these red lines here are their proposed drill locations. So as you can see, they're really going to get after this eastern extension of where these two faults are coming together. And that place where the rocks are all compressed is a very good place to be looking for the source of where all of this gold mineralization is coming from. Because it's in such close proximity, I think that there's a potential that they are all connected at depth. Whether that depth connection is along this Perron fault or the Beaupre, or over here at the east, I think that they are on to checking for that, and that's a very exciting situation for me. I think that this company is undervalued at anything under $1 billion. I think that they could be a multi-billion-dollar takeover, 1 to 2 billion, maybe 3 billion. So I think this one has a lot of blue sky ahead of it. I really love to see that continuity of the high grade and all of these high grade zones in such close proximity, especially as you get over to the east here. And again, I would point out that as you go towards the east, you've got the rock, the faults coming together and really compressing that Beaupre block, which is the orangish color here. So I think they've got a hell of a good situation on their hands, and I think that they're very undervalued. And yeah, I like the story a lot. Okay, so now I'm going to go to a new company that has come on my radar screen of late, which is called McLaren Resources. Just going to pull up their website here. And on January 24th, McLaren announced that they hit 16.5 grams per ton of gold over 6 meters, 10.8 grams of gold over 9 meters, 7.9 grams of gold over 4.5 meters on their McCool gold property. This is in the Timmins gold region, very prolific region for gold mining. And they're hitting some very juicy numbers related to their Center Hill fault, where they have a big IP anomaly and ground mag geophysical anomaly. As you can see, here's the Center Hill fault. These are your conduits for the gold mineralization. I would also note that right about here is a hinge in the rock packages. You've got another fault over here. Here is this is looking back a little bit further. I was hoping to find their geophysical anomaly. Let me see if I can find it here on their website. We'll go to their properties, McCool. That's often where they put this geophysical stuff. I know not everybody pays attention to the geophysics, but I certainly do, because, you know, the geophysics in conjunction with the structural story, and especially being in such a prolific region as they are, is really important stuff. The next place where they have them is often in their corporate presentations. I'm going to pull this up and see if we can find some geophysics. Exploring the Timmins gold region, heck of a place to be exploring. That shows you the, see if I can, here's your Center Hill fault, which is their area of focus. Good neighbors, they talk about all the mines in the area. Just gonna see if I can find some geophysics. Okay, so here's their exploration potential. As you can see, they're hitting a lot of good stuff in here on a project that had previously been mined. I'm not finding the IP data and the mag that they talked about. Oh, well, we'll have to skip that for today. I will try to get them on the horn. Let's see how their stock's been performing. McLaren MCL.B. Unfortunately, it doesn't always show. Okay, so as you can see there, they had a bit of a significant breakout. I think that was related to the results that they had out. Gonna go back to that news release that shows that McLaren. So there you go. It's an Ontario play. I'm just starting to get them on my radar screen. I'm going to reach out to the company, see if I can get them on an interview. But that's one that's been coming into my radar screen of late. Okay, so now I'm going to go into 9 Mile Metals. 9 Mile Metals, as many people have heard, I like this story a lot. It's my favorite. Base metal story. And why I like this story a lot is they're in an important VMS mining camp in Bathurst, the Bathurst mining camp, which is one of the top 3 VMS mining camps in the world, known for the big mines, especially the Brunswick 12. And look at these are the grades that they're getting on a new discovery called the California Lake VMS project. 8% zinc, 78 grams of silver, 2.64% lead, 1.38 grams of gold, even sniffs of copper, 12.59% zinc, 22.3% zinc, 5.64% zinc. This went out on Tuesday, January 24th. And what really impresses me about that is you're looking at the top of a VMS system, and they're already getting these quite spectacular grades that are the kind of grades that make up mines in the Bathurst mining camp. And they haven't even found the source of where that's coming from. Now, something else that I think is quite important is that in these VMS systems, you often have 2 key zones. Closest to surface, which would be farthest away from the heat engine, you have a zinc, lead, and silver zone. And then as you get deeper and closer to the heat engine, you get into copper and gold. What these grades tell me is that is likely exactly what they're looking at here. At the top, you've got a zinc, lead, and silver zone. And based on seeing the gold and the sniffs of copper up top of the system, that there's probably a copper gold zone sitting underneath the zinc, lead, and silver zone. So this is an exciting new discovery that they have to find the source of where that came from. Now, the news release just before this, they talked about their flagship project, which is the 9 Mile Brook lens. At the 9 Mile Brook lens, in fact, I did an interview with the company just after this news release went out, and we looked at the 3D modeling of the geophysics that they've done. And I invite you to go to my YouTube channel at Rocks and Stocks News and check out that interview, because we talked about a lot of the 3D modeling that they're doing on the geophysics. And it's quite a spectacular presentation that they shared on that interview. So you can also find it on my Substack at rocksandstocks.substack.com. And this lens, by the way, California Lake is 20 kilometers away from this lens that they have. At the 9 Mile Brook lens, they found a thick lens that comes right to surface. It daylights. and it's a 10-meter thick lens with up to over 10% copper in it, as well as lead, zinc, silver, and gold. And again, getting back to that zonation, that's quite a combination there. That looks like they have a zinc, silver, lead, as well as a copper and gold. But what really impresses me about that lens is that it's thick, it's right at surface, and it's high grade, which is indicative of what is going to happen as they find the source of where that lens came from. The lens, when it's thick and high grade like that at surface or at the top of a VMS system, is indicative of a deeper high grade and thick source. And if you start finding a thick high grade source in a VMS system in such a prolific mining camp for VMS deposits, I think that the valuation will be multiples of its current valuation. So take a look at 9 Mile Metals. Sokoman Minerals is another company that I'm very bullish on. And here is an update. Oh, this was, no, that's not the one I want to. They are drilling right now on their, what they call their 463 zone. I think that this is a significant game changer for the company, and I'm going to show you why on this this map here. So they were drilling along this western trend, the upper eastern trend, and then following the eastern trend, this one here, this red package, deeper. And they found lots of high-grade gold along this eastern trend. But then back in the fall of 2022, they announced that they hit this 463 zone that had 39.6 meters of 12.5 grams per ton gold. Included in that was 10 meters of bonanza grade, 42 grams of gold. They had a sub-interval that was over 100 grams of gold. So really juicy jewelry box stuff. And it was their thickest intersection of the highest grades. And then they did some downhole, they put some cameras down the hole, and they were able to see that it looks like you've got this eastern trend and then another trend coming up this way, and they pierced that, and now it's called the 463 zone. And I believe that this is the start of a swan zone type situation, like at the Fosterville mine in Australia, which was a company maker for Kirkland Lake. And as you can see here, you get your swan zone coming up in different orientations. And that's exactly what they're looking at here. They got another hole in called 505 that kind of cut above this high grade zone, and now they're drilling to get underneath it. As I said, I think that the company is into their first zone, like a swan zone, and I think this is a company maker, and I'm really excited about the assay results that they have coming from the 505 drill hole, and then the current drill hole. Be watching for news out of that one as well. So keep a close eye on Sokoman. Now I'm going to move over to I80 Gold. I80 Gold has I think, the makings of a very big company of the future that will be valued at over 5 billion. Now they're trading at under 1 billion. And I'm going to bring up this news release on January 25th because I can show you some. Well, first of all, look at some of the grades that they're getting from their Hilltop zone, which is a CRD system. 60 grams of gold, 908 grams of silver, 1.1% zinc, 15.7% lead over 10 meters. They've got, 7% zinc, 33% lead over 18 meters with 631 grams of silver, 1.9 grams of gold. This is a spectacular, this CRD discovery, which has your zinc, your lead, and your silver, and then an overprint of bonanza grade gold, which makes it extremely valuable rock. Then right beside that, you've got the Blackjack deposit, which is a skarn, and 27.3% zinc, 3.2 grams of gold, 13 grams of silver over 24.5 meters, 28% zinc, 4.9% gold or lead, 0.3 grams of gold, 195 grams of silver over 17 meters. So here is where this map is just phenomenal. So right here at Ruby Deeps, and right beside it, higher in the system, is the 426 zone, which is right below this eastern part of what is the historical Archimedes pit. This in itself is a world-class gold discovery. It has very high grade for something that you would look at underground bulk mining, has very thick intersections. The 426 zone, which is higher up in the system, is quite spectacular as well. And what makes it quite exciting is that it's right at the bottom of this pit. So you've got easy access to it, and it's got a lot of oxide material in it as well. So again, I think at Ruby Deeps here and the 426 zone, you've got the makings of a world-class gold deposit. But then they started drilling over here at their hilltop, and they're finding a CRD system, and with just phenomenal grades and continuity. Look at this zone that they're already getting. Hole 55 was the one that was highlighted earlier, 60 grams of gold, 908 grams of silver, 15% lead, 1.1% zinc over 10 meters. Then over here, you're getting more and more. This is really starting to hang together quite nicely. That's their hilltop upper zone. Then you've got over here, you've got the hilltop lower zone. Excellent results. They know assays are pending from that. They're really cranking up the drilling. They're going to have 6 drill rigs on this, looking at the CRD as well as that skarn. And I'm going to go back here. Look at this big IP geophysical anomaly, and it's associated with some important faults. These are the conduits that bring these CRD and the high-grade gold up to surface. And there's a big geophysical anomaly right there that could be the source of the CRD. The Blackjack is a skarn deposit that's wide open to grow a lot bigger. Collectively, you just don't see this sort of stuff it's a very rare occurrence to see such spectacular mineralizing system. And so I80 Gold is a big company in the making, but then right next door to them, so here you see the property boundary, Jackson Fault and this Williamsburg Fault continue, and they continue on to Paycor's ground. I'm going to pull that Paycor. Let me here get this up. Okay, so there's Paycor. They're right beside I80 Gold, and they just announced, first they announced on January 19th an $8 million bought deal financing. The next day they doubled it to $16 million. So that's going to give them tons of cash to go and really chase after this Look at what they've got. They've got a CRD, 27 meters, 10% zinc, 1% lead, 79 grams of silver, 8 grams of gold, including 13 meters of 16% zinc, 1% lead, 110 grams of silver, 11 grams of gold. They've had anywhere from high grade to bonanza grade gold overprint into their CRD system. And here's the historic resource, which has grades that are similar. And then you got your southeast lobe where they're getting all these new high grades. I think this map here. So this map actually will help you understand just how significant what they are. So earlier I talked about the hilltop zone that I80 is finding, and their blackjack skarn and their ruby deeps. So then you follow it onto the claim blocks here, and this is where they're getting the high grade CRD with lead, zinc, and silver, and an overprint of very high grade gold. So it's the same story as what I80 Gold has next door. They've got the same faulting network as coming through here. They've got a favorable package of rocks at 2.8 kilometers, where they can find more of these CRDs. It's a spectacular project, and that's why they've been able to get $60 million in a bought deal financing. So I80 Gold and Paycor have been kind of linked at the hip as far as their stock performance. I'm going to first bring up I80 IAU on the Toronto, and just this was when they announced that 60 grammer and 908 grams of silver and the high grades of lead and zinc as well. And stock just blasted off, went through from around, let's say, 230 all the way over $4, went through a golden cross, is now trading slightly under its 50-day moving average. I think in a short-term perspective, it's oversold here, and they have pending results coming out. But as I said, both Paycor and I80 are kind of linked, as you can see here. They also had a significant breakout. This was when they announced their own high grades of CRD with the high grade to bonanza grade overprint of gold. And they've been performing very well as also. So these two companies are locked at the hip, and for very good reasons. They both have high-grade CRDs and overprint of high-grade gold, but they're not the only one. Golden Lake Exploration, those two companies are sponsors of my website, my shows, as is Golden Lake, and I put out a lot of content regarding these companies. And Golden Lake is also, I'm an advisor of the company. As you can see here, they were trading at about a nickel. They broke out quite significantly, and they're following the same trend as I80 Gold and Paycor, but from a lot smaller of a valuation. As you can see, they went through a golden cross here. The 50-day is on a very nice trajectory upwards. So let's go to Golden Lake and see what news has been affecting Golden Lake of late. Here you've got Golden Lake, and they had two important news releases out recently. Let me just go to the past news. Okay, so on January 19th, they had put out, okay, so first of all, they've also made a discovery of a high-grade CRD with an overprint of high-grade to bonanza grades of gold in it. So it's in the same kind of rocks, same kind of structural corridor. and they're finding the same things as what the next door neighbors at Paycor and I80 are finding. So then there was some past sampling, and look at some of these sample results: 45 grams of gold, 547 grams of silver, 25.2% combined lead and zinc, 11 grams of gold, 1,460 grams of silver, 4.6% lead and silver combined grade. And this is at the Eureka Tunnel location, which is where they also drilled into that high grade CRD with the overprint of high grade gold. So and there's more of these occurrences of CRD mineralization with your high grade gold, silver, lead, and zinc. They've got a bunch of targets here that, and there was a lot of historical mining on the property that of CRDs. So they're in the same area around Eureka as what both I80 and Paycor have found. And so this whole area is emerging as a very exciting part of Nevada. And if you look at the values of the metals in the rock that all of these companies, I80, Paycor, and Golden Lake are finding, and they're all finding, $1,000 worth of metals in the ground, which makes it some of the highest values of metals anywhere on the planet for any metal. This is going to be a phenomenal area, and they're not the only three that are in that area. Also in the area is Timberline, and Timberline is they've got a resource of high grade. Let me just pull it up here. Or they've got a resource developing. Where is it? Just a second here. Corporate presentation. No, that's not what I want. I want the news. Why am I not finding the news? I'll go back to the home here, see if I can find the news section. This always doesn't cooperate with me. Okay, so press releases. That's what I'm looking for. So they've got this resource that's developing, and I want to point out a few things. So here's their resource. Here's their expansion drilling. And then they got this massive IP anomaly. And if you look, so put this into context. Here's your resource. Here's your expansion drilling. Here's your IP anomaly. Now I'm going to go down to this next map and look at the direction that, so here's your gold resource area. Here's your expansion drilling. All the rock packages, all the faulting are all going towards this big IP anomaly. I think that this IP anomaly is the source of where all this gold mineralization is coming along these faults and making its way into the contacts of key rock packages. I can't wait till they get drilling on that IP anomaly, which I think is part of their next wave of drilling. But then they've got the largest land package in this Eureka camp, where I80 Gold, Paycor, Golden Lake, and they also have the potential. There was a bunch of historical CRD mining on their properties as well. So they're in this same CRD targeting camp. They already have a resource that is expanding with an associated IP anomaly right on the key structural story. So Timberline is one of the 4 key companies that are sponsors of my show that I also follow very closely. for what they have going on in this Eureka camp. I think that they're very undervalued at their current valuation, and I'm looking forward to their next waves of news releases. More drilling on the resource, drilling on the IP anomaly that's associated with it, and any kind of news out of their CRD potential, because they have some substantial CRD potential on their projects as well. So Timberline is another one for you to follow. Also in Nevada is Walker River Resources. Walker River Resources completed in late 2022, completed their drilling at their Laboucan Gold project. And I want to point out some things here about this. What really excites me about this Laboucan Gold project. Just going to bring up some technical information here. There we are. Okay. So what you're looking at here is a network of roads on the Laboucan Canyon project. And what you can see here is these are locations of historical mining, as well as a bunch of drill holes that intersected a lot of high-grade gold. So you've got a very large network, or very widespread high-grade gold mineralization. And there's 166. There's just lots of it. You can go look at this news release, but what's exciting is that, as you can see here, here are some deep cracks in the earth, and this network of where you saw the roads that I just highlighted, it's also associated with these deep cracks in the earth, and there's a bunch of alteration in here as well that looks quite spectacular, and it's all indicating that you've got a very big and powerful gold mineralizing system with widespread high grade to bonanza grades of gold. I believe that this whole system is part of one mineralizing system that will have excellent continuity to it. They've got a bunch of drill holes pending from this. Earlier you saw what they call their hotspot zone, and they drilled some more holes around that hotspot zone, and those are the results that are pending. I'm looking forward to seeing those results, and I think it could be a real game changer. And you can see in the stocks action that there's enthusiasm for these results that are pending. Back here, you'll see that it had a significant breakout in December, went through a golden cross. The trajectory of the 50-day is very bullish. It's trading above the 50-day moving average and the 200-day moving average, and they've got results pending. Everything is pointing towards them having excellent results, and I like Walker River a lot. Okay, so now I'm going to go to a company that's new on my radar screen, which is a company called Massivo Massivo Silver Corp. What caught my attention was a friend of mine pointed out some very good news. So on January 18th, they announced that they're doing a 10-hole drill program on a project in Nevada, which had seen past production around the Second World War that reported high-grade mineralization in gold, silver, and copper. Some of those historic shipments of ore talked about 226 grams of silver, 9 grams of gold, and 6.8% copper. And some of them were as high as 2,880 grams of silver, 25.7 grams of gold, and 3.2% copper. Now, these are historically reported stuff, so you can't really rely on it. It is an indicator of what was reported, but it was long before any National Instrument 4310 run reporting standards, so you take it with a grain of salt. But then you look at, they completed hole number 1. It was drilled to 250 feet. They note that they had visible mineralization was encountered at 72 to 140 feet, and then again at 160 feet to 189 feet. And what was interesting is that you hear a lot these days about delays in getting assay results back from the labs. Well, they sent their samples into ALS's lab in Twin Falls, Idaho. So there's not nearly as much material going to that location. So they can get it prepared really quickly, and then get those results back very quickly. So these guys like what they see in the hole, and they are sending it to a lab where they can get those results back very fast. I really like the sounds of this story, and I'm going to work on getting an interview, but it's a new company on my radar screen that their news caught my attention, and I'm going to try to get an interview with the company fairly soon here. All right, so now I'm going to move over to Firefox, FFOX. I'm going to talk about 2 companies. I picked this company as a tax loss selling victim. They came up quite nicely since then. They're sort of trading right now in between their 50-day moving average and their 200-day moving average. That's Firefox. Now, another company that's in close proximity and also in Finland has had a significant breakout in November. They're now trading above their 200-day moving average and significantly above their 50-day moving average, and they look like they're only a few weeks away from a golden cross. I like this story, Orion, and let's get into, we'll start with Firefox. Let me just open this up here for you folks. I'll get Firefox up there. So there's an emerging, exciting area in Finland. Well, Finland itself has had some big success stories there of late over the last couple of years. And Firefox and Orion are the juniors that have caught my attention. This was one of the projects that Firefox had. They talked about some surface sampling results that looked very promising. But this isn't their key project. The key project is Mustiarve. And at Mustiarve, look at what the results that they're getting. 13 grams of gold over 15 meters. There was other hits of interest in there, as you can see there. So what excites me about what's happening in Finland is you've got these really old rocks, and you've got these deep crustal cracks in the earth that are your classic places to look for orogenic gold systems. And what they're finding here at Firefox is what I think is the top of an orogenic gold system. You got to keep going deeper. And as you go deeper, you get closer to the heat engine. And as you get closer to the heat engine of the entire orogenic gold system, the grades go up. But they're already getting these very good grades and close to surface. And as you can see, big geophysical anomalies here. Mustiarve really has my attention. I think that they've got something serious here. And I like what I see out of this project. And then you look at their overall land package, and just hold on a second here. It's not participating with me, but okay, there we go. Okay, so Muste here, download presentation. So I'm going to go to their corporate presentation because this will help you get a better idea of just how they are positioned in the, okay, so in orange here is the Firefox's ground. These are all the other big claims and where there's been important discoveries made. As you can see, here is big crack going through the big structural story going through there. Secondary structures are also important in these discoveries. That's the whole sort of key area of Finland that's under a lot of excitement now, and they're well positioned with a lot of land in that area. This shows more about their 22 drill programs. This gives you an idea of other of these greenstone belts, and that you can see that the central Lapland greenstone belt is comparable to some of these extremely important greenstone belts throughout the world. Here's where they're hitting bonanza grades. The structural story that's associated with it at Mustiarve, consistently yielding shallow high-grade gold. So you're already in the high-grade gold at the top of an orogenic gold system with the depth wide open. So that's why I'm a big fan of what Firefox is doing. Now let's go to, Orion Resources. So they're also in Finland, and they had some important news out recently that I wanted to talk about. So here, Orion intersects significant gold mineralization at the wholly owned Risti property in multiple zones, including 17.2 grams of gold over 5.9 meters. Again, you're at the top of an orogenic gold system, and you're already getting some very handsome grades of gold. Their Matti Talika, their CEO, drill hole KS 22027, returning multiple gold intervals over a core length of over 210 meters, including 17.2 grams of gold over 5.9 meters, is the most significant result to date at, and I'm not even going to try to say that name, prospect. Past work at the Karas area indicated that it could be close to a gold system. These results begin to confirm our suspicion that the system may be significant. He goes on, and I quote, "The gold mineralization is hosted within a corridor of highly deformed and altered mafic volcanic rocks in a geological setting resembling recent significant discoveries at Helmi, which is a joint venture between Orion and B2 Gold, and Ikari, which is Rupert Resources." So they're in a great area of Finland. There's been some big stuff being found. It's an orogenic gold camp. I'm a big fan of Orion. They're a new company on my radar screen, and I like their story a lot. Okay, now I'm going to go to my rocks and stocks on Substack. There's been a couple of new companies on my joining my sponsorship program. One was Athena Gold. Athena Gold has a new gold discovery in Nevada. It's about 50 miles north of the Bullfrog region. This Bullfrog region is just, it's really exciting area. AngloGold Ashanti bought out Corvus. They've spent about $600 million acquiring projects in that Bullfrog region of Western Nevada. And they also have an important discovery down there called Silicon. Silicon had a maiden resource of 3.4 million ounces, and that's an oxide gold discovery. Now, 50 miles to the north, Athena at their Excelsior Springs project is also finding an oxide gold discovery with high grade of gold close to the surface. And here's the highlights of some of their intersections. 10.66 meters of 15.3 grams of gold in their DB23 hole. DB or DH2201, 39 at 39 meters of depth, they hit 10 grams of gold, 30 grams of silver over 10.7 meters. Then deeper in the hole, at 77 meters, they hit 4.97 grams per ton gold, 14.4 grams of silver. And then they had another one at DH2202 at 41 meters. They hit 7.29 grams of gold and 44 grams of silver over 9.1 meters. And here you can see the distribution, excellent distribution of your gold in these DB23, 2202, and 2201. So they're starting to spread that system out, and it's wide open. This one had mineralization at the bottom of the hole, still in mineralization. Look at your high grades starting to hang together. It was found right here in associate. I think this geophysical anomaly here is important. I think this structural story where you've got two intersecting faults and a big geophysical anomaly associated with that, they're going to be expanding this geophysical anomaly, which I think will give them better clarity on the whole structural story and the geophysics. But I really like what I see so far off the first three holes into this new discovery in Nevada of oxide gold with very handsome grades. Okay, so that's a new sponsor. I did an interview with their management. You can find that actually. It should be right in here. You'll find it on my Rocks and Stocks news, or sorry, rocksandstocks.substack.com. Then another new sponsor is a company called Dynasty Gold. They're also into one of these orogenic gold systems, and they're not even very deep, and they're already hitting bonanza grades. So here's one intersection, 43 grams of gold over 3.83 meters at 180 meters of depth. This is the kind of stuff that you find in orogenic gold systems. 101 grams over 1.5 meters and also 246 grams, or sorry, that was a 3-meter intersection of 101 grams of gold. And then they also had a 1.5 meter subinterval inside of that of 246 grams of gold. So they're just early into this orogenic gold system and very close to surface. They're already hitting bonanza grades. Usually you've got to go much deeper into an orogenic gold system in order to tag these kind of bonanza grades. So not only are they finding it close to surface, but it's wide open to keep following it at depth. Right now, the company is working on an updated corporate presentation, and I'm going to get them on to another show, another interview, because I want to talk to them. They're going to have some plan maps and some cross sections, so we can start to see how the this bonanza and high grade gold is hanging together and connect the dots. But I've also requested that the geologist that picked the holes, I want to get him on the show as well, because I want to talk to him about why he picked these particular holes. In the past, the drilling had been very close to surface, and they drilled a little bit deeper. I want to find out why they drilled a little bit deeper, and because they're hitting what looks like jewelry box grades that are similar to what the Swan Zone has found. So I'm going to get them on the horn as soon as they put out their new corporate presentation. Okay, so I'm getting a little long in the tooth here for this show. I have some more companies that have recently come on my radar screen. I'm going to talk about those in the next show I do. So I'll get off the screen share here and wrap things up by saying, as always, my shows are for information purposes only. It's important for you to speak with your financial advisors before making any investment decisions, and do your homework. Be informed about the companies that you're investing in. I think it'll help you to make wiser and more lucrative investment decisions. On that note, have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.